just let me know. Cool. Well, we're standing on the first day's battlefield here at Gettysburg, specifically McPherson's Ridge. McPherson's Ridge is a site of intense fighting in the morning and afternoon on July 1st. Right behind us is Seminary Ridge with a Lutheran Theological Seminary. Where we are standing is actually the monument to the 121st Pennsylvania Volunteers. It is one of the more interesting monuments, in my opinion, and one of my favorites here on the battlefield. And like all the monuments here on the battlefield, it's kind of the granite and bronze echoes of the veterans' voices. They're letting you know who they were and what they did here at Gettysburg and in the entire war with the placement of their monument. In this case, the 121st Pennsylvania was a part of the 1st Brigade of the 3rd Division of the 1st Corps. And on July 1st, 1863, it was the far left of the Union line. So think of what the 20th Maine was on July 2nd. They were that on July 1st. A point they point out to you on their monument. Occupied this position, this extreme left of the Union line. So they're letting you know that. Looking at the monument as a whole, what you see here is some pretty typical stuff. You see the state emblem here for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You see some of the implements of the infantry, a cartridge box and a bayonet. You see the Corps symbol, the circle disc, the 1st Corps. All the Union monuments for regiments here at Gettysburg have in some way their Corps badge incorporated. And in this case, they let you know, yes, we are the 1st Corps. Look at that, circle disc. But there are two details that are important with the overall story of this regiment that they include in their monument. One is that little bursting thing right there. That's an artillery shell bursting. And two is the draped flag. A draped sheet on a monument usually is indicative of mourning. They're mourning the dead who fell in service with this regiment. And in this case, it's in the pattern of the United States flag. So they're mourning the dead of this regiment who served here, who fought and gave their lives in the service of the United States of America. So this monument is telling you a lot. They also tell you how much they suffered, their casualties right here during the battle. And they'll also include elements on their monument of how long they served, from Fredericksburg to Appomattox, and where they were raised, in Philadelphia and Venango, forgive me, but over on this side, counties. They were mustered in on September 1st, 1862. They missed Antietam, and they mustered out on June 2nd of 1865. So that's the history of the regiment. That's their monument. But what's their story here at Gettysburg? It goes back to that bursting shell right here. On July 1st, 1863, the battle begins about 2 miles west of where we're standing right now. John Reynolds will bring up his 1st Division of his 1st Corps, and he'll engage Confederates in that woodlot right over there, the Herbst woodlot, driving them back, the Confederates, back across Willoughby's Run and repulsing the initial Confederate advance. About that time, after Reynolds is killed, but also after that repulse, kind of a lull settles over the battlefield. At that time, the 2 other divisions of the 1st Corps come up, including the 3rd Division under Thomas Rowley. However, because Reynolds, the 1st Corps commander, had been killed in the morning's fight, Doubleday, the senior division commander, becomes commander of the Corps. He had been in command of the 3rd Division. Rowley, who's in command of the 1st Brigade, takes command of the division, and the commander of the 121st Pennsylvania, Chapman Biddle, takes command of the brigade. Now, Chapman Biddle comes from a well-established Philadelphia family. They are like the blue blood of blue bloods, for crying out loud. Their grandfather, Clement Biddle, had been a colonel during the Revolutionary War and had established himself as a pretty wealthy individual, and that entire family was huge in Philadelphia circles. Biddle will take command of the brigade, so that leaves his cousin, Major Alexander Biddle, to take command of the regiment during that time. During that lull, the 3rd Division comes up here to McPherson's Ridge to reinforce the 1st Division who had been fighting earlier in the morning. Now that 3rd Division is going to be split up. One of the brigades, the Bucktail Brigade, under Roy Stone, is going to go over there near the McPherson barn on the other side of that wood line, right over there, the Harps Woods. The famous Black Hat Brigade of the Iron Brigade of the West, after they have repulsed the Confederates early in the morning, are now going to come back and settle themselves in the Harps Woodlot and establish themselves there. So occupying right next to them will be the other brigade of the 3rd Division. And this is the 1st Brigade, Chapman Biddle now in acting command. Now they're going to be placed in this area. They're going to start receiving artillery fire from the artillery batteries just to the west that the Confederates had established on Hare Ridge. They're going to try to conceal themselves in this kind of little defilade in order to make sure they're not getting hit as much as possible. But then something really inconvenient starts happening. Artillery shells start coming in from the north. That signals that the Confederates who are north of town are coming into the fight. So now this brigade tries to maneuver itself to make sure it doesn't get hit by this nasty crossfire of artillery. So they start trying to move around, trying not to get hit. And so they position themselves. It's not a comfortable situation. It is so uncomfortable a situation that they make sure to include it on their monument. They're coming under artillery fire from multiple directions. Finally, in the afternoon of July 1st, 1863, Confederate General Robert E. Lee presses his attack. He orders forward what he has, the remainder of Heath's division, as well as Pender's division, and Rhodes's division, which is now attacking from the north, as well as Early's division. The Confederates are now swarming in to attack the outnumbered Federals. On the far left of the Union line that day is the 121st Pennsylvania. So let's go on down here. So the 121st Pennsylvania is the far left of the Union line at that point. Only Buford's cavalry, Gamble's brigade, is back on Seminary Ridge protecting a little bit of Fairfield Road back there. But if you look and you pan over here, you see no other monuments, no other markers. That's because they are the far left of the Union infantry line here on July 1st. As they're here, and as they're waiting to receive, it's not necessarily right here. So let me go back and clarify this. Reynolds Avenue, as we see it today, was built on the Antietam plan, basically, which is you preserve a stretch of kind of a ribbon of land, enough to build an avenue on and to have enough space on either side to place a monument. So is this the exact location of where the 121st Pennsylvania was? Probably not, but it is in this general area, okay? So this is where they could place their monuments. If you're here on July 1st and you're a member of this regiment, in the afternoon when Lee begins to press his attack, what you may have been able to see was that there was no Union troops to your left. And the only reserve you had was one regiment, the 151st Pennsylvania, over near the seminary. That's it. And as you're standing here, you would have stared across Willoughby Run. And what you may have seen, there were not as many trees as there are today. You would have seen line upon line of Confederate butternut and gray. Almost 2 divisions worth of Confederate infantry is stacking up on that side of Willoughby's Run. And according to some of the accounts, the line extends to the Fairfield Road, meaning they overlap the flank of this regiment, just on that side of Willoughby's Run. So whenever they decide to cross over here, the 121st Pennsylvania is in some real trouble. And sure enough, they do. 2 of Pettigrew's regiments are going to engage the Iron Brigade, famously in the Harrop's Woodlot. We talk about that all the time. What we don't talk about are the 2 other regiments, the 47th and 52nd North Carolinas, who are coming across towards us directly. These regiments by themselves equal almost the brigade under Biddle. And that's not including the Confederates that are behind that of Dorsey Pinder's division. So these men are having to realize they're in a tough spot. And sure enough, they can't hold. They start to fall back after engaging the Confederates for a short time. They're going to start to fall back to a new position, realizing the vulnerability of it, withdrawing back to a position on Seminary Ridge behind us. And if you think, well, they lost their nerve. How dare they not refuse their flank and swing like a door and repulse the attack? Let me remind people that at that exact moment, the Iron Brigade of the West, the Black Hats, are getting all they can handle over there in the Harrop's Woodlot, and they too are falling back. This position, due to numbers and vulnerability, cannot be held. And so these men start to fall back to the seminary. They'll fight there. The Confederates will again renew their attack through this swell. They'll attack that position and eventually drive the Federals off of that position as well. The 121st Pennsylvania will also be involved on July 2nd and July 3rd near Cemetery Ridge. They have another monument over there as well. But this regiment, for the entire battle, will suffer 68.1% casualties. These guys didn't run away. They did fight, but this position was just untenable. And they had to withdraw. Otherwise, they would have been completely destroyed. And so, that's the story of the 121st Pennsylvania.
Hey, thanks so much, Mike. That was amazing. You may know Mike as 6 Questions from Addressing Gettysburg. We just know him as Mike. Anyway, great job. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day.